Begin with learning what our ZipUp activation is, how to apply it to some key functional movements. But first, we need to learn what is a ZipUp activation and what the heck is breathography of your breathography cycle. Okay, so I'm going to start the metronome. I always use a metronome in every single workout because we want to use that to keep our breath at a maximum rate of 6 breaths per minute. So that is our autonomic nervous system training. And that is also our core training. And you'll see what I mean as we go through. So let's start pressing ourselves back against a wall. Okay, I want you to feel your tailbone against the wall. I want you to feel the base of your rib cage against the wall. I want you to feel the shoulders gently pushing back against the wall. But if you have to pinch your shoulder blades together to get there, then don't force a shoulder blade retraction. I just want you to think gentle lift, like your collarbone is smiling. Okay, so when I do the pelvic cue you through the pelvic floor zip-up activation, know that when I say shoulders back, I don't mean shove the shoulders back with force. Okay, I want you to think gentle lift. So shoulders, and then your head is gently pressing back against the wall behind you. Again, the head is not pressing back with force, it's just gently lifting at a 45-degree angle and pressing back. Now, if you have cervical limitations and it's forcing you to go into neck extension to push your head back into the wall, then I would recommend folding up a hand towel and putting it behind your head so that you have that feedback, okay? So we're standing in anatomical position. The palms are facing forward. The zip-up activation is like a zipper from the bottom up. We're beginning with a pelvic floor contraction. Then the pelvic floor contraction is pulling up to the navel. When I say navel, that's count number 2 of the zip-up activation. So we begin with a pelvic floor contraction on 1. Then we pull our navel in on count 2, but it's not only sucking the navel in. It's really decreasing the circumference of the entire waist. That is a muscle called your transversus abdominis, and it is pulling in and cinching together, okay? And that is really strategic for stabilizing your lumbar spine, and that is why it is number 2, point 2 of the zip-up activation. So point number 1 is pelvic floor contracting. When the pelvic floor contracts, you're pulling your sit bones together in this direction, and you're also pulling your pubic bone and your tailbone together in this direction without letting your pelvis move. And this is why I want you to start press back against the wall, because many people, when they contract their pelvic floor, or when they think they're contracting the pelvic floor, they do this. They flatten their low back against the wall. What am I doing here? I'm tightening my hamstrings and I'm over recruiting my superficial abdominals to get that pelvic floor contraction. If you press yourself back against the wall and you press your tailbone back and the base of your ribs back, if on count 2 you feel your lumbar or your low back driving back into the wall, then you know that you're most likely recruiting too many superficial abdominal fibers and probably over recruiting your hamstrings to tuck the pelvis under. That is not what we want here. I just want you to get a contraction in that muscle that pulls the waist in but doesn't actually move the pelvis, okay? So again, your pelvic floor is pulling together like this, and then it's pulling up, right? So if you're a female, it's kind of like, having a tampon in, your cervix is sucking up. So it's closing, it's like a parachute is closing on all 4 corners, and then, or a flower is closing, and then it's getting drawn up. It's getting drawn up to the navel, and there's no movement in your pelvis, okay? That is, and go to HYPOXiX.studio and look at the foundational videos. You can watch an entire 15-20 minute informational video that explains to you, that really breaks down all the components of the zip-up activation, okay? And that would be really appropriate for someone who's totally brand new and you have a really hard time finding your pelvic floor, okay? So again, the pelvic floor, it moves in, and actually I do, in that foundational video, I demonstrate the pelvic floor contraction like this. It's pulling, it's like a fist closing, and it's also pulling up, or it's pulling in and up like this. So we go, okay? Now I know I said if you're, if you are female, if you're biologically female and you are trying to find your pelvic floor, that's a good sensation to think of, like that cervix pulling up. If you're male, you can just think like lift. You're actually tightening and actually lifting your testicles, right? So that's count 1. You actually do feel that sensation, and you will even get a little bit of contraction even in the back, like in the sphincter. I know we're getting really specific here, but we have to. This is the foundation of the technique, okay? So I want you to really think lift, okay? Lift, just like this. Then you decrease the circumference of the waist on count 2. Count number 3, you're simply closing your ribs, internally rotating your ribs, or simply drive your rib cage back into the wall behind you, okay? If the ribs are flared and they're externally rotated, the base of your rib cage will not meet the wall behind you. You're standing like this, right? And you think your posture is good, but actually you need to press those ribs back against the wall behind you. Then we pull our shoulders back on top of that without losing the rib connection. And then we gently push the head back, okay? So those are all 5 points of the zip-up activation. Point number 1 is pelvic floor contracting. Count number 2 is navel. I say navel, but it's really the entire line at the height of the navel. So it's the entire ab ribbon actually pulling away from the ab ribbon. Count number 3 is ribs closing and pushing back into the wall. Shoulders are pulling back, and then head is gently pushing back. That's 5. So we got pelvic floor is 1, navel is 2, ribs are 3, 4 are shoulders, and 5 is head pressing back, okay? So let's practice it on a hiss exhalation pattern. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 beats set up every single one of our exercises in the HYPOXiX method. There's never an exercise that doesn't begin with this outside of moving in some of the advanced protocols where we only use an engaged inhale. I won't even talk about it right now because you're a beginner. Most of the exercises in HYPOXiX are using the ZipUp activation to begin as a setup for your posture and for your core engagement, but also for your mind to set yourself up for the exercise. Okay, so let's take it slow on a hiss, all 5 beats. Inhale and hiss, pelvic floor, navel, ribs, shoulders, head. Everything releases. Make sure you're pressing the base of the ribs back into the wall, but not your lower back. So I want you to feel that neutral spine, and I want you to feel that stability of the pelvis. Here we go. Everything releases. Hiss, let's go. Hiss, pelvic floor, navel, ribs, shoulders, head. Everything releases. 1 continuous exhale. I'm not going to cue. I'm just going to hiss so you can hear what it sounds like. Here we go. Everything releases. Let's take it again. Okay, so that was all 5 counts. Now I'm now right now, because we're practicing it, we're performing one component, one piece of the pelvic floor zip-up activation on every beat of the metronome. Now, what you actually hear in most of the HYPOXiX workouts is me saying this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, those 5 beats happen with that speed of contraction, and you are getting your pelvic floor zip-up activation at that speed. Now, is it going to happen today as a beginner? Most likely not, and that's okay, but I want you to attempt to practice it a couple times, and I want you to visualize a zipper from the bottom, okay? And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to go just 5 times in a row with just an inhale in between. And I want you to see how close you can get, just so you have an understanding as to where you're going. You might not get there today. That's okay. But I want you to feel pretty confident in your zip-up activation at that speed before you go into a beginner intermediate or an intermediate class, okay? And that's the importance of you being in here today, okay? So everything releases 5 times in a row with just a little inhale between. Here we go on a hiss. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, release, hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, release again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, release, loosening the ribbon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, release again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, we're very activated. We're very activated in our pelvic floor, our lower abdominals. I want you to keep those muscles active, okay? I want you to take 2 inhales with those muscles activated. This is what I call the engaged inhalation. It's 2 sniffs of air, so it's a double-it inhale, which is also really nice for the nervous system, while those muscles are engaged. So it's like you're breathing into a taut cylinder. Okay, so we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or to take it slow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a hiss. You feel a contraction here, you feel a contraction here, your ribs are pressing back into the wall. Make letter C's with your hands and take 2 inhales with those muscles engaged. 1, 2. You feel the tension, right? You feel the tension on the abdominals, you feel the tension on the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is staying contracted. Now, naturally, involuntarily, the pelvic floor is going to release when you inhale. So this is a very focused voluntary action, keeping the pelvic floor engaged while you inhale. Now, why do I do an engaged inhale or put an engaged inhale into the methodology? Because you are staying stable in your spine, and I'm teaching you a tool, breathography, which is simply breath, a very specific choreographed breath choreography that keeps your spine stable while you're exercising, okay? So let's practice our zip-up activation and our engaged inhale. Everything releases, we go back to our zip-up activation. Let's practice with speed so you can start to get used to the rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2, everything releases. Let's take it. Here we go. Hiss 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2, everything releases. So the air can only go so low because you're very contracted right here. So what else is that doing? That's forcing you to breathe laterally into your ribs and into your back. So you're really working on intercostal mobility and rib and thoracic mobility by breathing in this way, okay? The released inhale is also important, and that comes later. Right now, I'm teaching you the engaged inhale purposefully so that you can use this strategically in your functional movement patterns. Here we go. Activation, zip up, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. Now hold that position. You're very full of air. Your lungs are full of air, but you're braced. I want you to take an 8-second exhalation, 2 beats on a blow, 2 beats on a hiss, 2 beats on a soft shish, 2 beats on a loud shish. Let me say that again. 2 beats on a blow through pursed lips, 2 beats on a hiss like a snake, 2 beats on a soft shish like you're shushing someone but you're not angry at them, 2 beats on a loud shish. You're an angry librarian. You're shushing someone. This is the 5th time you reminded them to be quiet. I want you to drain the air from the lungs in that 8-second exhalation. Now, at the top of the 8-second exhalation pattern on the blow, your ab ribbon's going to be a little snug because you've just inhaled. You've just expanded your ribs. You've just you pushed your diaphragm down a little bit. Not all the way because you're staying contracted here. Blow and hiss, you're a little snug with the ab ribbon, but it's starting to loosen. On the soft shish and loud shish, you are draining the air from the lungs. You're loosening the ab ribbon. So now you see what we've done throughout the 8-second exhalation, engaged exhale. This is what I call the engaged exhale. You have moved from using a combination of the air in your lungs and the engaged inhale as a spinal stabilization strategy to using your hard exhale and the deflation of the lungs and an increase in recruitment of your obliques, your internal oblique, your transversus abdominis, and your external oblique as a spinal stabilization strategy. So you see how we move like this, you know, like a sine cosine wave. Sorry, didn't mean to get so nerdy on you there, but we're as we go through our breath cycle, you're constantly stabilized in the spine. You're just using different strategies. You know, you're using air in the lungs and a braced and a lowered diaphragm and a braced, still with a braced spine, but you're partially using that air in your lungs as a spinal stabilization strategy. Then as you deflate the lungs, you're increasing concentric shortened activity of those deep, deep, deep core muscles as spinal stability instead of the air in your lungs. So you see, you always have something. You always have something as you go through this breathing to stabilize the spine as you go through your functional movement. And this is why I'm so excited about teaching this. So thank you for being here at this beginner class. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through our zip-up activation, our engaged inhale, and our 8-second exhale. We're going to put it all together. And then we're going to come away from the wall and just apply it to a few exercises. We're not going to overwhelm the system today because you're just learning the breath pattern. And really what I want you to walk away from this class with is the fundamentals of how to perform this breathing so you can start to use it in the other core classes, the mobility classes, the pre-bed mobility, the live classes, which can get pretty darn intense. And when you get to the advanced levels, I'm not explaining this breathing to you. We are just going right into the workout because I have many people who've been working with me for quite a while and understand this breathing and they just want to get right to the workout. Okay, so let's take it from our zip-up activation. Here we go. Hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. 8-second exhale. Blow. Hiss. Did you loosen the ribbon on the soft shish and loud shish? I hope so. Let's take it 2 more times in a row. Everything releases. Zip up and hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. And blow. Everything releases. Let's take it from the zip up again. Here we go. Hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. And blow. And release. Now, I know we've spent most of the workout today against the wall. You should already really feel those deep abs working from just the breathing. Now, of course, the main reason that I perform this breathing in conjunction with these workouts is because it is a wonderful way of stabilizing the spine and really always strengthening your core. I've had so many clients ask me, you know, in all the 20 years I've been personal training, what is my core? When you say engage my core, what do you mean by that? And, you know, I think as very similar to most personal trainers, you know, we have various, you know, explanations over time. But what I found to be the most effective was using the breath, and especially being forced into remote sessions. You know, over the pandemic, I found it to be so incredibly useful to use a very specific breathing strategy to keep the core engaged and ignited, no matter what the functional movement pattern. That is it for today. You got through your first beginner class. This is really, really exciting, and you can practice this one in perpetuity. But first and foremost, you need to feel comfortable with this breathing, and you need to understand this breathing before stepping into integrating it with some of the higher intensity workouts, of which there are many. Don't worry, there's a lot of low intensity ones as well. There's something for everyone, but keep practicing this until you're ready, and I can't wait to see you at the next one. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.